Hey there, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. Whether you're joining us live or on the replay, please do say hi in the comments. We'd love to hear from you and hear your thoughts as you listen to the show. If you're new here, this is the show that brings you the latest news from the music teaching industry for private music teachers, piano teachers, voice teachers, all of us. The relevant stuff for you, the fun stuff that's coming up, some upcoming events and other stuff that is coming up that you can get excited about. We also do web reviews, so we take two websites from our community and we look at their sites and give them some tips on what to improve. And every week we have a special topic, and today's topic is about planning for 2021. So even if you're not watching this right as we go live, think about planning going forward. I still think all of these questions are going to be useful for you. If you're brand new to me and to Vibrant Music Teaching and Colourful Keys, a huge warm welcome to you. This channel, the Colourful Keys channel on YouTube, is all about providing ideas and inspiration and information for piano teachers and other music teachers. So if you are new here, consider subscribing and make sure you like this video so that you remember to come back to us over here, and maybe share it with a friend too. My name is Nicola Canton and I am from Dublin in Ireland, so that's where this accent comes from, and that's where people make comments about me being a leprechaun. If you're mystified by that, that's what that's about. So today we're talking about planning for 2021, and we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but first I want you to fill you in on some of the latest music teacher news. Right, so in my personal update, my biggest news, this is not news, I'm being silly, but my biggest news that I'm feeling this week is that I get to get a haircut tomorrow. That's very exciting to me. But in work stuff, I've been working on managing and updating and keeping everyone informed about the 2020 send-off. So if you guys haven't seen this yet, you're going to want to check it out. It's so much fun. We've been loving it. It's been super awesome to see everyone's reaction to it and how much fun they're having with it. So this is what it looks like. And you go there every day and you only have one day to open the door. Yes, just one day. That's part of the deal. It's a calendar. That's part of the fun. If I just put up 25 different links, it wouldn't be this daily little nugget of gold and fun. Okay, so it is based on the Irish time zone, but I suggest you just check it at the same time every day. And even if it says day 7 and it's day 6 for you, that's fine. So today was a podcast episode, but it's been all different things throughout the days of our 2020 send-off. And you can find out more about it at vibrantmusicteaching.com/2020. So that's where you can find it. Few questions I'm commonly getting about it. No, it's not just for members, it's for everyone. This is my Christmas present to all of you, anyone who wants to participate. It's just a fun way for us all to get together and go have a giggle some days or have a little think some days, but it's all in the spirit of just enjoying ourselves this December and saying, okay, 2020, it's been awesome. See you later. So that's what that's all about. Again, it's at vibrantmusicteaching.com/2020 to keep things simple. And we also published a brand new Christmas music game. So if you haven't seen that yet, that's called Reindeer Race. I mentioned that last week, but I wanted to mention it again because I added a video since then of exactly how to play it. So we had a more general video up, but for those of you who are maybe less experienced with playing online games, if you're not a member of VMT or you just haven't dove into those games yet, then the video walkthrough will really help you with that. And yeah, that's all available. So just search for Reindeer Race and that should pop up for you. Or if you're a member, it's in the printable library if you select screen option in the type menu. And if you need any help with that, of course, let us know in support. And the other news for members is that we have our new course about lead sheets, which is called the Lead Sheet Level Up, and you can find that in the video library if you haven't checked it out already. I think this is a really fun time of year to use it. You can do it anytime. It doesn't have to be anything to do with Christmas or December or New Year's, but it is a really fun time to be using lead sheets. Sometimes kids' brains are kind of melting this time of year, and we need something fun to do with them that, not that lead sheets don't require practice, but they definitely can be worked on in the lesson without practice happening in between. So if that's the stage your kids are at, it might be a great time to dive into that. Now, in fun upcoming stuff, tomorrow I have a Facebook Live about what's coming up in 2021. And Facebook is kind of awkward in terms of where you access the lives. That's just Facebook being difficult. Like if you go to YouTube and there's an upcoming live, you see it right there. If you're subscribed to the Colourful Geese channel, you just click through to the channel and it shows you. But Facebook's a little bit more sticky. So what I've done is I've set up a link for you for that in case you want to join me tomorrow. It's a little bit earlier than this show, so if you're watching live, it'll be a couple of hours before this, but you can check it out at that link and it'll show you the details. So that's the link to the post about it, and that way you can click get reminder on Facebook and you'll actually get notified about it, and Facebook won't be difficult. On that, I'm going to be talking about what's coming up in 2021 and inside VMT and on the Colourful Geese blog and other plans that we have for 2021 around there. So today on the show we're talking about your plans, right? But tomorrow is going to be a sneak peek into all the exciting stuff we have coming up next year to help teachers. So that's going to be a really fun one, and I hope you can join me for it. It should be a blast. The other thing that's coming up this Sunday, we will be publishing the Vibrant Music Teaching Industry Report. So this is based on your survey data from September, October. We took it back, we crunched all the numbers, and we put it into beautiful graphs into a report that you can all download totally for free. We love making this available to all of you to just digest and enrich your knowledge of our industry, because that really is so powerful. It can make you realize that you're charging too little, that you have different lesson practices, or that there's some lesson format that you've never even heard of, and even if only a few teachers are doing it, it looks like it might be an interesting option for you. You can look into more about that. The other thing we covered in this report, which is special to this year, is some stuff to do with online teaching and how common it was with the pandemic this year and everything about that. So that report is publishing on Sunday. Really looking forward to getting that into your hands. If you haven't downloaded the 2019 report, whoops, wishing the year away, 2019 report, and you are not a Vibrant Music Teaching member, you should go to colourfulgeese.ie/report and download that now, because that'll go away. It'll be replaced by the new 2021. Okay? If you're a member though, both will be in the library and you can access them whenever you like. Bart's Piano Fun. I'm so glad you're looking forward to it. And Dina, awesome stuff. Yeah, really looking forward to getting it into your hands, and that's coming out this Sunday. Also wanted to mention that it will be on the podcast on Monday. And if you're like, what? Podcast? What? It comes out every Monday, almost at the same time as this show. So if you want double of me on Mondays, you can subscribe to the podcast. Of course, you can take a podcast with you much more easily than a YouTube show, and it is really handy. And it's it's a very different vibe to hear on the show. Hopefully not in a good or a bad way, but definitely very different. So if you are a podcast fan, definitely subscribe to the show so that you get that. It is an extra long episode because I go through my thoughts on all of the different details to do with the report in next week's show. So it's a slightly longer one than usual. Still not long for a podcast because I tend to be succinct. So it's just longer than our normal bite-sized episodes. Last two bits of fun stuff coming up. So much fun happening. So the first one is that the Tonaro Expo is coming up. That will be at the end of next week. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm putting together my presentation. I think it's going to be a great session, but I'm mostly looking forward to attending and watching all the other sessions because, oh my gosh, the speaker lineup is just phenomenal. And it's uber cheap as well. So you can get an extra discount for that if you haven't seen it already. Members, you can get that at the top in the forums. It's saved right there for you in the news section so that you can easily access that coupon code. If you're not a member, you can search my Instagram for that post. You'll just have to scroll down a wee bit to find the post where I gave out the code for the Tanara Expo. And if you're not signed up already, I think you should. I think it's going to be really fun. And a great end to this awesome year. Let's call it an awesome year. Last little bit of fun stuff coming up is that next week I wanted to mention the show because it's our last one of 2020. What? Oh my gosh. So crazy. I mean, this year has been 5 years long, but at the same time, I cannot believe it's over. I was saying that to someone else, and I don't think they got what I meant, but you know when you go away, you know when you travel and you get back and it feels like it's been a week and simultaneously it's been 1,000 years because you've had all these new experiences in this foreign climate. It has a strange feeling when you come back from traveling, and that's what 2020 feels like to me. It's like simultaneously 10 years and 2 weeks somehow. Anyway, so next week is the last show. And it's going to be about predictions and hopes for the future of the music teaching industry. So we're going to be chatting some more about the report that is coming out and thinking about what this means and where we go from here and what I hope the report shows up in terms of trends in the following year and what we can all do to influence that. Lori. Yeah. I also feel like January and February happened in a separate year. I think that they did. Did they? Because I think they did. I think I'm right. Anyway, let's talk about this year, shall we? I think the first step to getting ready for a new year is to take stock of the past year. And that's particularly tough in this case, isn't it? It's tricky. There's no getting around that. Tell me how you're feeling about the past year and how it feels in your memory, right? You're still experiencing it right now, yes, but it's starting to draw to a close, and it's time that we look back on it as a whole and say, how was it? What happened? And not like literally what happened, oh, there was a pandemic, I had to go online, it was terrible, or I had to go online, it was awesome. But how does it feel as a whole, apart from a big mess? And then narrowing in on different little bits of it. So one exercise that I think would be really useful is to look at each month and ask yourself what you did in that month for your studio, for your life, in general. And some months it's going to be, well, basically nothing. Like I just treaded water and I kept going, and that is fine. Okay, I'm not here to say, you didn't check off your list in each. No, that's not what this is about. But we forget January and February happened, and even March and April, and we did things that we have no recollection of, really. At least we're not calling them to the front of our minds. So think of some examples. See if you can add some into the comments. What's something that you did in January or in February? That go through the months, think about what did I do in those months? What new thing did I try? What did I achieve? What goals did I hit? Yes, but also just what happened in that month that I've forgotten about. Colin said, I've learnt loads this year. He didn't say loads, I added that. Got a real grip on how I feel about age groups I teach, materials I use, approaches to different problems, learning about teaching online. It's been huge. Yes, we've all learned so much. So much. Elizabeth said she's learned about grit and strength. That is huge. And I hope that I've passed that on to my students. Yes, Absolutely. I feel like I've learned about that too. Feel like I've learned about um, balance in a different way than I understood or had embedded, I guess, before. Really getting to grips with what is it to be balanced about things and how can you recalibrate yourself when you feel off kilter, because we're all going to from time to time, and we're definitely all going to have done that this year. I mean, it threw us off course in most cases. Unless you planned a giant switch to online teaching in March as part of your regularly scheduled planning, then you're probably thrown at least a little bit off course. Maybe it was for the better, maybe it was for the challenging, but it happened. I learned about balancing that situation, about grit and sticking with things, and about, yes, teaching my students about that. Dina said, definitely learned a lot about what I want to include in lessons. Yeah, that's a really important question, isn't it? Having less lessons during the pandemic has actually given me some time to do some planning. Right. Some of us may have realised if we did lose a few students or, for whatever reason had fewer lessons, some of us maybe realised that, oh right, I can actually breathe and plan these lessons, and that's actually a better experience for me. Tell me some specifics about stuff you did though. Let's go back to January and February. What happened for you? What was your studio like? How was it different to now? What changes had you made? Because many of us changed things in January, or perhaps the previous September. And how was it going at that stage? And in the end, when you had to maybe throw out some of those plans, was it good or was it bad in the end? I mean, in some cases we were forced to change things. Like Laurie, I think you're a good example of this. And it's great that you're talking about adaptability, flexibility, knowing it's okay to ask for help. Yes, ask us. If you need help right now, by the way, and you're watching this, please ask us. We're a friendly community, so we would love to help you. But I bring up Laurie in particular because she switched online lessons and now she's thinking, I think this is better. And I know several teachers who are in that position who made the switch and they're thinking, no, this might actually be better for me and my students. And maybe that's not you. Maybe you still hate it. Maybe you still are dying to go back to in person and counting down the days even though we don't have a deadline. That's fine too. Can anyone give me an example though of their January and February and maybe early March? Because it was Paddy's Day around here, so that's how I benchmark it. I'm like, mid-March, that's when the world erupted. I know it's different in different countries. It happened to be around Paddy's Day here, so it was kind of funny. Kind of funny. I don't know if that's the right word. Megan said, I only had 30-minute lessons at the start of the year. Looking back, that was crazy. I agree, Megan, it was crazy. No, I'm just joking. So many people do 30-minute lessons, so of course it wasn't crazy. It was the norm, and that's why you did it in most likely, or because you felt like you needed to fit in more students to make enough money and you couldn't charge enough. These are all common reasons. But teaching longer lessons is better. Wow, what a definitive statement. In 90% of teachers' cases, they actually prefer the online lessons and it's better for students. And that is one of my smaller campaigns of something I'd love to see changed in our industry. Let's just get rid of those silly 30-minute lessons if we can. At least for most students. In some cases it is better. But Susan made you switch as well. That's really interesting. Colin, I didn't put that fine a point on it, but I kind of agree. Whenever I've been forced to teach them, and I even with youngest students prefer to teach a longer lesson, but I can stomach it. I can be happy enough with 30 minutes with a younger student with low practice levels and all of that. But once we go beyond age 6, I'm like, that's the sound I want to make. Yes, Megan, I love that it made you so much happier to switch. Did you increase your fee for 45 minutes? I'll let other people answer that as well, but I wanted to quickly answer that for Karen. So I'm not saying teach 45-minute lessons and charge your regular rate, because that is undercutting yourself. I'm saying most of us are charging too little, and actually we could teach 45-minute lessons, have fewer students, and make the same amount of money, i.e. charge the same rate that we do for 30 minutes, just multiply by 1.5 for your 45-minute lessons. Yes, some families may balk at it, but in a lot of cases, actually, I think we underestimate how much other people make in some cases, and also just, people who really value you, in a lot of cases, if the market is in your favor, I guess, they will pay for that service if you show them why it's important and why it matters. Yeah, really interesting perspectives coming in. Leah, I definitely don't suggest changing things too frequently. Yes, I like to make big changes like this once a year, but so for me in September, in some places January might be a better fit. It sort of depends on the academic year, but if your school year runs September to June, like ours does, for example, and you have that summer break, it does make a natural point to make these changes. And people feel like they're signing on for a new year. Even if you do roll things over, it still feels like a fresh start, and it feels like a new opt-in. So I tend to go for that. However, that doesn't mean you can't start planning now. So I often feel better if there's a change I want to make in my studio. I'll often feel better just for having planned it out, and this might be me being a bit of a planning freak, but if I'm getting really stressed, so let's take 30-minute lessons. I'm getting really stressed by these 30-minute lessons, and they're really getting on my nerves. I'll make a plan for, okay, this is how I'm going to roll out the policy change. These are my new fees that I'm going to charge next year. I'll lay it out, at least roughly, and it kind of makes me relax a bit more, because I'm like, yeah, well, it's only until June. So kind of takes some of the weight off. So maybe do that if you're feeling impatient about changing it, but you think it would be better to wait till September. Okay, so keep your thoughts rolling in about this year, taking stock of it. I think this is a really useful group experience for us to think about what we did for the past year, what changes we made that we've forgotten about. I'd also love to hear about studio projects, because this is really important stuff for, say, a studio newsletter, or to highlight to parents in some other way. You've done a lot of stuff, and every year when I do one formal newsletter every year in May, and every year when I do it, I comb back through the months and say, these are all the things we did, so that I can highlight the best events and show pictures of them and all that stuff. And it's very easy to forget about them. You're going, oh my gosh, yeah, that was a huge composition project we did, 6 months ago. That was incredible. They learned so much from that, and you get these memories about, oh, this student really grew in terms of his understanding of key signatures during that project. And yeah, that doesn't go into the newsletter, but it's almost as an exercise for you as much as for others. So if you're feeling a bit against yourself, if you're fighting with yourself a little bit right now, maybe write down some of the fun stuff you've done and the progress students have made and the breakthroughs. And if you regularly participate in the Success Story Saturdays in the Vibrant Music Studio Teachers Facebook group, go over there and look at some of the old comments that you made. Scroll right down. You can search for Success Story Saturday, or you can click on the photos actually and click on those and see the attached post and read your own comments. You might be surprised how many amazing things you have done that you've completely forgotten about it. And those breakthroughs with students, and those policy changes you made, and the times you stuck to your guns when a parent was trying to push you on something. Really, really useful. And if you haven't participated in them, start now, because it's wonderful to look back at your past self. If for no other reason, it's definitely worth doing. Okay, so let's continue taking stock of last year, but let's also start to move it along. Because maybe some of the stuff that's coming up for you right now, and it's not in the chat as much, but maybe it's in your head and you're not voicing it, which is just saying, well, in March this happened, and in April I forgot to send the correct link for my online recital, so that was a complete mess. And then if you have a list going like that right now in your head, you are not alone. I'm sure there are plenty of people feeling like that. And it's not just about focusing on the positive and ignoring that stuff happened, because we have to learn from our mistakes, for sure, just like anyone else. But we need to not beat ourselves up about it, especially this year, but always. So the next step is to say, okay, I did these things. They were spectacular and wonderful. I did these things, and they were not so great. And now I'm just going to let go of all of it. I'm going to take the lessons, take the learning, extract that. This is what I learned from that as a lesson, and just let go of everything else. And I will not sing that song, but do it, okay? Just get rid of it from your brain. Learn the lessons you need to learn from it, and then let go of everything else. Harder than it sounds, but worth it. Now let's look forward to next year, shall we? There are 3 areas I'm going to split this up into, so keep adding your thoughts about them as we go through. Once we have that fresh slate, once we've breathed out that sigh, let's look at 3 aspects. Let's look at your money, what I'm calling your career, although I'd prefer a better word, but that's what I came up with, and your life. Let's start with money. Because honestly, if you're not making enough money, it's very hard to do any of the other things. That's the reality, okay? If you're not being properly compensated, you can't feel secure in your job, your career. You can't make plans for your studio's future. You can't do anything. And I'm not saying that any of us are on the poverty line, but when we are in that mindset of feeling like there's not enough of anything, and we can easily get into that, especially when we're pent up about the whole situation right now, we as humans are prone to start behaving recklessly and doing things that are not in our best interests. So we need to be making enough, and we need to set aside our fears about making enough if we already are. Sometimes it's just about putting it down on paper and saying, no, that's fine. I'm fine. It's actually okay. So the question here is twofold. How much do you need to make to live comfortably? Not buying Ferraris, unless you insist that you need heated seats to feel comfortable. But then please buy a Tesla, okay? But how much do you need to live comfortably? None of us really have these huge, luxurious aspirations in most cases, right? We wouldn't be teaching if that was what we valued most in life. But that doesn't mean you don't need to be paid properly and to make enough money to feel secure. That is important. You are not less of an artist or less of a creative person or anything else just because you value making enough money to feel comfortable. That is fine. But you need a figure. You need a number to say, if I make this, I'll feel okay about my finances because I'll be able to put this many % away. That will be my little cushion. I'll have this much left over for fun stuff, and that's how much I need, and this is all my expenses that are fixed. And you just have to do the sums on that. It's not super fun, but it is worth it for the reward of looking at that figure and saying, that is a fact, that is how much I need. Right. Now are you making that much? That's the next question. And if you're not, you need to question, am I charging too little? Am I not optimizing how I'm making my money in some way that I could be better optimizing? Or are my expenses just too high for some reason? Like maybe you're renting a studio space and you don't actually need it. You could teach at home and it would be worth it for the financial benefit that would give you, right? Now, I know nobody loves talking about money, but I want you to anyway. I'm going to make you. Now, obviously, you can just click away from this site and go do something fun. But I hope you'll stay with me and talk to me about money. So tell me, you don't have to tell me the figure that you want to make. Just as a ballpark, are you making enough to live comfortably? Are you happy with your salary? Or are you not happy with it? And if so, which way are you going to change? Okay, so are you going to cut your expenses? Do you think that's more viable? Or do you think you need to increase your fees? And if you want to write in the comments, I have no idea, I am terrible with money, that's fine too. No one's going to judge you, okay? But I hope you'll do that exercise later to write down your figure that makes sense to you. It's so different for everyone. It's different based on who you are, but it's also different based on where you live, whether you have a mortgage or rent a place, and, your dependent people who depend on you for your money and your time. All of these things are factors, right? So it's not about that number, it's about how you feel about it and where you are in relation to it right now. But if you're not making enough money, you need to handle that first, in my view. You need to make a plan for how you're going to make more or spend less next year, because without that, you're in panic mode. You are not able to make these big grand studio plans and to do all this fun stuff and to find a better life balance, because you're just going to be panicking. What is it my mum says? My mum says something along the lines of, oh yes, I'm sure this is not her, it might be a quote, might just be something people say, but she always says, money doesn't make you happy, but it sure does help. Or she'll say, money doesn't make you happy, but not having enough can make you unhappy. Right? My parents are perfectly well off now, but they have been through really tough recessionary times here back in the 80s. So she knows what she's talking about. Money doesn't bring you happiness. You have to spend it the right way, and you have to have other things in your life. But not having enough of it, and scrounging for more, can make you unhappy, and I don't want that for you. And it won't lead to success. It won't lead to more money either, if you're just panicked about it. Yeah, Angie, similar from your dad. Money isn't everything, but it sure does help. There's been studies actually that have shown, yes, people do get happier up to a certain level of income, and then beyond that it makes no difference, right? But up to, I can't remember what the study was, but like $70,000 or something in the US. I can't remember where the study was done either, so it might be dependent on the city, but up to there, it does make people happier and happier, and then beyond that, it's like, it doesn't make a big difference. There's many other factors. Yeah, Colin, managing a 9-to-5 jobs, should be doing that now, and teach 4 nights a week. Yeah, but you actually enjoy your job, right? So it's not a case of wanting to get out of it, which may be where some other people are at right now. So it's so based on your own personal circumstances. Elizabeth, you need to increase your fees. Totally fair. By the way, for anyone watching, I suggest increasing your fees every year. That's my advice. Take it or leave it, but it definitely works for me, because then you can increase it just a few percent and you don't end up behind the cost of living increase or inflation. Because if you don't ever move your fees, in most cases, in most countries, you are getting a pay cut every year. Isn't that lovely? So at least a few percent every year does make a big difference, and it also leads your parents in your studio to expect the fees to change. And that's really the big factor for me, is you don't spend 3 years at €100 per month and then change it, because then people are going to go, what? Why? The economy's gone down. Why are you going up, right? But you have this backlog of being behind. So just changing it every year is the best way to go, I think. It's enough with a bit of support and cutting here and there from parts of my budget. Is it ideal to be saving and really be putting into my business as much as I want to be? No, not ideal, but nearly there, it sounds like, Leah. So you just need to make those little tweaks that are actually sustainable in that case. Either you do permanently cut those expenses, or you do raise your fees, or maybe it's a little bit of both. It sounds like it's just a little bit of rebalancing that you need there, and it will actually start to flow. And that's something you need to redo every year, of course. My income is second, and unfortunately we've been treating it that way. It's next on the list. Goals. Thank you for your honesty there, Megan. I'm sure there's many people in the same camp. What we bring to the front of mind is going to be prioritized, and it is going to really make a change in your income if that's what you focus on. So that's the first step, if you make that your actual goal. But you have to make it your priority, and you have to sacrifice some other things in the meantime. Maybe it means that you have to spend more time with your books or writing emails about a fee increase. And yes, you do get less time for a little while for planning lessons, planning some cool studio project. I'm not saying you throw all those things out the window, but you do need to prioritize certain things, and you can't have multiple priorities. The word priority used to mean one thing. Do you guys know that? Of course, we've made it multiple, but you can only have so many. There does have to be a limit there, and it used to be the number one. So maybe we need to go back to that definition a little bit. Okay, so after money, once you have that not set, it's not something you set it and say, yeah, I'm fine now. That's fine, unless I was going to say win the lottery, but most lottery winners lose all their money, don't they? So that's not a good example. But in pretty much all cases, we're going to need to relook at our finances every year and make sure everything's ticking over and going okay. But once you do get up to a certain level, it definitely becomes easier and feels safer and more secure for you, which is what I want for you. Once you have that level, you can start to look at the two other aspects, which I've called career, could be business design maybe, and life. I called it career because you might be working for someone else, and that's just as important. It's really career design that I want, though. So whether it's planning your own business or planning your own career, you need to think about that trajectory, because if you start climbing some ladder, let's just say you're working in a music school right now, and the path upward seems to be, okay, I do this, and then I become the manager of my team of teachers, and then I become a manager of this branch of our school, let's just say it's a chain. I know this isn't many people's circumstances, but I'm just giving an example. Eventually, you end up in a different job. It's not teaching anymore. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what you want. But you have to decide before you climb the ladder that it's the right ladder. So with your business, the mistake many teachers will make is they start climbing the business ladder in terms of filling their studio with students. They just pack them in. Or they start climbing the ladder of, okay, well, if I get out of my living room first, and then if I get into a commercial space, and it sounds swanky and awesome, right? And maybe it is what you want. Maybe it is your dream. But is it? Because sometimes we just head a direction because it's the thing, and it isn't our thing. It's not for us. So if you don't take this time once a year to step back and say, how does my studio look right now? And what's my dream studio right now? And am I headed in the right direction? And I say dream studio right now because it's supposed to change. Don't set up some 5-year plan and then just work towards it without every year going, if I made a new 5-year plan, would it look the same? Or if I made a 4-year plan at this stage, would it look the same? Because things change, Priorities change. Right, so that's career. It's all about your dream studio. And it means, yes, the number of students, the type of lessons you're teaching, 45 minutes, or buddies, or whatever you want to teach. You have to make a plan in order to get there. You also have to make a plan about how many hours you want to work, and where you want to teach, and what kind of students you want to have. Doesn't mean that you turn people away, but it does mean that you have an ideal in mind and you work towards that and your marketing leads towards that. Again, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to get to somewhere you don't want to be. The last area I want you to think about as we think about 2021 is your life balance, as we talk about. And that is such a subjective question. It's just feeling. It's all ooey gooey stuff. But do you feel balanced? Do you feel like your life is in balance? And I say life balance on purpose, not work-life balance, as many of you know, because I don't like putting it in two categories for our particular circumstances. If we say work-life balance, we're forever trying to put the things in their boxes. And the truth is they don't fit in boxes. So it's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for frustration. When there's always some spilling over one and not enough in the other and it just doesn't fit. So think about your overall life in balance, and it has all these different arms. It's like a giant set of scales with all these different arms coming off of it. Which one feels too heavy right now? Okay, well, we weigh it up the other way, and we add a little bit more over here, and we add a little bit more over there, and yes, I'm using my calm, soothing voice, because that's how you have to feel about this life balance stuff. It's not, I will achieve it, and the scale will stay balanced. Have you seen those old-fashioned scales? They're just going to tip all over the place again anyway. But you need to keep working on it so that none of them hit the floor. And keep doing it gently, little by little. Little grains of salt here, a little bit of sugar over there, right? So tell me, do you feel like your life is in balance? And many of us will be answering no right now. And that is totally okay. You know, you have all sorts of things going on in your life right now, but it's a simple but difficult question. Simple but not easy. Do you feel balanced? Colin said, my dream studio is an extension on the house that I can hold a recital in with a nice baby grand. Yes, I meant studios in business, but I like your I like your dream all the same. Wouldn't mind a sauna off of the side, but that's unrelated. Yeah. I'm about to get my much smaller dream. Hopefully in Q1 of next year we'll be moved into it, which is that I'll actually have a separate room to teach in. And it's more my dream for my husband than it is for myself, because he's very good about it, but we've been sharing the living room with my teaching for a very long time. And I'm very looking forward to giving him that. Yeah, it's getting the space for myself, but giving him back a living room that he can use, you know, whenever he actually wants to use the living room. So, a much smaller dream, but still does have a beautiful new digital piano and no sauna, unfortunately. Leah, I can't even tell because I get so lost in the work and get excited about it and forget that it's work, which is great, but I don't stop to have non-music fun. Yeah, and that's why I talk about life balance as well, Leah, because it's saying the work doesn't always feel like work, and I believe we don't have to sit there and try to make it work, right? No, you fit in my work box, because that's taking away some of the wonderfulness of our jobs, which is that we don't always find them to be work, and that's excellent. But we have to balance all the things, right? And we do have to step away from what we're doing, from the music, from the kids, from the parents, so that we can get some space from it. So I'm not saying work all the time, I'm just saying it's more blurry. And I think we have to sometimes be okay with the blurriness, and sometimes we have to rein it in a little bit. And that takes a lot of rebalancing. Alright, we're going to dive into our web reviews, but do keep all of your fun ideas about life balance and dream studios coming in. Okay, so this is our first site. Yes, it is in French. Now my French may not be excellent, but I do have enough of it to be able to navigate this site. So we're going to go through it anyway, because really this is all about design and elements. So we don't need to speak French to be able to progress through the site and give Jacob some tips here. So I love that this is up the top right here. So that means only online, basically. So that is the latest in terms of COVID. And I actually like this banner because it's not too, no, we're online, warning, exclamation point, right? It's just like, this is what we're doing. And then you can click to learn more about that. So that's great. I also like the colors. They're definitely more unusual maybe, but I like them. I think they look well and they're pretty cohesive. Just watch that there, Jacob, in terms of the title. That's obviously a placeholder text that you've forgotten to replace. So definitely replace that if you can. I like this section here, giving all the different options. I would make the learn more about this bigger and a button. But I like all the different sections and how clear it is and the little graphics, and the consistency of fonts is great as well. And then we have the MMS form down the bottom here, which is good, very detailed. And then we'll just jump over to, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the French, by the way, my understanding is a lot better than my pronunciation. But yeah, so Rock Le Web, which is awesome, and I just love how much you're celebrating the online lessons and showing these videos. I think this is totally inspiring. I hope everyone watching is taking note of this, because just showcasing, it doesn't even have, I'm not going to scroll through and watch each of these, but even if you're just doing regular songs, just showcasing, like, we're still having a great time. Students are still learning so much. I think that's awesome. And giving it a fun title is great as well. Now, let's go back to the home page again. So, the only thing I don't see, so it's not a super strong call to action. That would be what I would rethink here. The only other thing I would rethink maybe, Jacob, is the amount of information. I would possibly put the login for the current students on another page, because I think it's a little bit distracting unless your students really need it all the time, in which case, yes, you should prioritize them being able to access it. But it's normally fine to send your students to a specific page and say that's the link. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the home page. That would generally be for prospective students, in my view. But yeah, I think it's really good, really well designed. It has a lot of personality. Could do with some more student photos and maybe the video on the homepage itself, like one of your featured videos from Rock Le Web and stuff like that. And it's stronger call to action. That's my big thing. It's just very small text. It's not a really bold color. This green is a lot stronger than it. It needs to be a call to action color. But well done. I know you're planning some updates soon, but it's already looking really, really great. Going on there? Oh, un momento then. Just fix that. I forgot to press enter. That's what happened there. Very good. Well done, self. So this is our other site. Right. This is not in French. I just realized it kind of is. But yes, it's not actually. It's in English. Now, okay, as we arrive on this homepage, there's just not enough stuff, Veronica. That's the main thing here. So there's not enough text, so no one is going to find your site, or it's going to be harder for them to, because there's just not enough for Google to crawl. So it needs to have enough information there that Google can read, because Google needs to read words to say, what's this site about? Where is it? Is this relevant to the search? So if someone searches for lessons in your area, at the moment it might be tough for you to show up, simply because there's not enough text here, right? Like, I love this message, but we need more information is all I'm saying. Like, a lot more. Like 500 words more at least. And we have a contact page, nice and simple, really good. And location. Teaching in Greek and English, that's cool. And some information about you. I'm not sure about this setup for this picture. I would make this just a title because, again, like, about me, that's important information for Google to just see the title. And it also doesn't really tell me about you. So I believe in progress. This is all awesome, but we need way, way more information about you and what you like to do and how you're teaching. What I really like here, though, Veronica, is your success story page. So you've got this information, you've got this story about this student who learned Swan Lake, but you need to give us way more text. Like, the student has muscular dystrophy and you're working with them, and that's awesome. How did you make them successful? How much fun are they having? What other students have you taught? Lots and lots more text is the main thing you need everywhere. And then once you have that, a strong call to action button on the home page wouldn't go amiss either. But well done on putting together the site. You just need to spend an afternoon typing. That's the main thing. And thank you so much for submitting it for review, both of you. Someone was asking about Jacob's site. Let me get the link for you. I have it here. There is the link. I'll just post that in the chat. Make sure and open it because the chat doesn't always show up after it's live. So that is jacobmpmusic.com if anyone is curious. If you want your website reviewed, you can submit it in the Vibrant Music Studio Teachers group on Facebook. If you're a member of Vibrant Music Teaching and you're not on Facebook, feel free to send it to support@vibrantmusicteaching.com and the wonderful Gemma or Estrella will add it for me to Facebook so it's saved with everyone else's, because being on Facebook is not a prerequisite to getting your website reviewed. That's just where we store that information, so that it's all in one spot. Thank you all so much for joining me. Colin, that's an interesting one. Could I spend some time showing examples of sites that are near perfect and why they are? Yeah, obviously not today, but that could be an interesting topic. It would be very hard to do. Where did I do the review? Okay. For now, Colin, what I'm going to suggest is you go to Danny Thompson's site. I think you're already familiar with it. And Jana Carlson's site for Hello Piano Studio. Those two are examples that I sometimes show as really good websites that are completely different from each other. So, but there's no such thing as a perfect site. So the main thing is, the main details are actually really simple. And yes, I will consider this for a future show, but again, just to give you something to work with for now, the main details are enough text on every page, friendly writing voice that actually speaks to the person that you want to attract to your studio, a strong call to action button that is clear and bold and stands out on the home page, and everything else kept simple. 2 fonts maximum, photos everywhere. That's it. Hope that gives you a starting point anyway, Colin, but definitely something to consider for a future episode of our show. Now, thank you all so much for joining me. It has been an absolute blast hanging out with you. A couple of things before I let you go. First of all, if you enjoyed this, thank you so much for joining me, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that other teachers find it. If you want to go an extra step further and really help me out, you could share it with 2 teacher friends who you think might find it helpful, or share a podcast or a blog if that's more their style. Next week is going to be our last one of 2020, and we're talking about predictions for the future of our industry, so it's going to be epic. I'm really looking forward to the discussion on that one. That'll be the same time, same place next week, and I'll see you then. Bye for now, guys.